Welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the
Take two. I'll edit that out.
Yeah. Anyway, and I haven't even started drinking yet. What the hell? Maybe I should start. Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network, presented by Four Patriots and Patriot Patch Company. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Good.
Doing
Good. Doing good.
We got
Finally got a day without rain.
Shrenda, I think there's something wrong with your camera. Because you're white.
That's my angelic aura glowing. Let me turn it down for y'all.
Angelic aura or bullshit aura?
You mean your demonic blaze?
No, I wouldn't go that far. I was just going bullshit aura.
Wait, the sun is setting right in my face. So that's
Aha! Okay. We just want to make sure you were okay over there. So, anyway. So, Shrenda, what you been up to?
A little bit this, a little bit of that, a lot of bit of dental work.
Yes, you have.
My gums are driving me nuts. You know how your foot feels when it falls asleep and waking up? That's what my mouth feels like.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a good feeling. It's not painful, but it's not a good feeling. Oh, did I tell you I took a tour at Crossbreed?
No. You said you're going.
I went, and I had fun, and it was great, and I got things. But they won't let me, they forbade me to post what I got because it doesn't exist. So I'm really bummed about that because y'all know I like things. I love the holster. I just can't take pictures of the holster and post it on social media. What else? Oh, I got a spot scope.
I saw that. What'd you get?
I didn't, Alpenbresser asked me to be a staffer with them, and they normally send out bundles of stuff, and I was like, look, I just need a spotting scope. Let me play with a spotting scope. So they sent me a pretty nice spotting scope. I'm going to be doing lots of dad bot peeping, bird peeping, having a good time. Taking it out with the creed more. Going bow fishing this weekend.
Went or going?
Going. So I'm cramming a few outdoor things in before I get my next wave of dental surgery. I probably won't be able to talk that week because it'll be the day after. So we'll see. I got a bunch of stuff coming up, but I'll just give it to y'all in waves because I don't want to take up 15 minutes talking about nothing.
So you taking the husband with you going out bow fishing?
No, he can't walk, Paul. I mean, he can't walk. We haven't.
What's this weekend?
I'm going bow fishing.
Right. Okay.
So,
Father's Day.
Yeah.
You know. Okay,
he's not my dad. We don't have children together.
I'm just saying, you know. Plus,
No.
you could lose him in the boat. You know, it's not a problem.
And he doesn't fool with water. No, I'm taking some much-needed Shrenda time.
Ah, there you go.
Much needed. 6 months, much-needed Shrenda time. So, there'll be pictures.
Yep. Stringer's full. Yep.
And I don't know if I'm actually going to do it. I'm going to be there. I may be too tired. I'm just going to enjoy camping and
nice.
Hanging out. So we'll see. There'll be pictures. I may or may not do it, but the opportunity's there.
Okay.
I do call him daddy when I want something. And when I really want something, it's Big Daddy.
So there, Mr. Loud, there you go. She blew your face right out.
What's that the kids say? No cap. And if we're out in public and I really want something, I'll say it really loud. Because if he tells me no, then all the guys will turn around and give him a look like, She called you daddy, man, and you told her, no, you're a horrible person.
Nick, what you been up to, Bubba?
It was kind of a nice, relaxing weekend. Parents came over Thursday to fly out for a trip Saturday. Um, Other than that, Saturday really didn't do too much. Just kind of relaxed. And then Sunday, went to a gun show about 40 minutes away. Picked up some things. Picked up a couple boxes of 7mm Mauser. I would load it, but of course, right now my press and all that's in boxes. So I was like, I might as well get some. And I also got a neck dice set for 7mm Mauser. So needs those. I think those need some work. Looks like a little bit of pitting in the next sizing die I got to mess with, but for $15 I couldn't pass on them. So
Not bad. Not bad. Chris?
Just about got all the trim finished up in the house. I didn't realize how big 2,400 square feet actually is until you start doing trim from one side to the other. Especially, then I did get a back order in.
Oh.
16 pounds of that good stuff to try out and play around. I've actually started seeing, at least with the distributors, they're getting some primers in, and they've had a bunch of small rifle, small pistol, small rifle Magnum in stock for, at least for the OEM side, like cases and cases. Is like, okay, well, where's the retail side? That's what I need.
Yeah, I have I belong to Indigo, which is a Indiana forum, and one of the guys got in a whole bunch of CCI OEM primers, and which he is selling.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know.
If the distributor authorizes, that's fine. But the way my distributors have told me, if I get something especially that comes in this little box like that,
Yep.
I can't sell
Uh-huh.
unless I want to have a good chance of losing
Your
said
privilege,
account.
yeah.
And I'm not about to risk that.
But then there's a whole bunch of other primers that are showing up. What Bosnian primers are showing up, and Argentina primers are showing, and all kinds of stuff like that. So somehow, some way, primers are making it here.
A component glut is a good thing
Well,
for us.
it isn't a glut yet, because some of
It will be. If it happens, it will be.
Yeah.
Other than that, let's see. Saturday, I helped out with HD Outdoors, the company or that nonprofit that took me for a hunt last year. Helped them out with a shotgun shoot and shot in that. We did pretty well. We're about middle of the pack. There were definitely some really good shooters with the shotgun. It's like, I'm not at that level.
That's a lot of practice, sir.
Yeah. Oh, you could tell. They're just looking at their setups. It's like, Sharinda would be like, can I walk off with this? Thank you.
Got one of those put it in my purse moments.
Yeah.
Well, our guest has joined us now. Hi, Sam.
Yeah.
Welcome.
How's it
Hello.
going, guys?
Hey, Sam.
Doing well.
Hey, Sam?
Good to meet you guys.
Yeah, good to meet you. I kind of got a quick talk with you shot, but you guys were so busy at the booth, it was more like a high five to you and everybody. Everybody was wanting to see that 50 cal.
Yeah, the booth was slammed at SHOT Show for sure, especially for that reason too. So it was hard to give a good amount of time to like everyone that we know in the industry and whatnot.
Yeah. Which is understandable when you guys release a new product. I think the Fly 45 hasn't been out that long, so people were definitely wanting to check that out too, and so definitely understandable.
Yeah, and we have some other cool stuff coming down the pipe. So, I've only been at Thunderbeast for 2 years, and the amount of stuff that we've been coming out with, I'm being told like they normally never do this. So we're trying to come out with a lot of new stuff, and we got something new coming out that'll be, I can't talk about it quite yet, but it's going to be a game changer for precision rifle gas guns. That basic line, I could probably release what that is in. So we got something we're working with. So we're hoping that we can, most likely we might save it till SHOT Show, but we'll see what the owners say.
Okay. That's a good tease for everybody. I'm like, now you got me thinking like, so for real quick, I'll do a quick intro for all our listeners and people watching live right now. We've got Sam Carlson. I reached out to him because we've been getting a lot of questions about suppressors. Obviously, we're the Reloading Podcast, so people wanted to know about reloading, shooting suppressed, how to select a suppressor. I know from a dealer standpoint how I handle it. But we also get questions about shooting in matches. So that's why I kind of reached out to Sam, because we kind of get 2 for 1. Not only does Sam work for Thunderbeast, he's also the match director for the Cheyenne Precision Rifle Hoedown that is usually a monthly event just about 2.5 hours away from me. So Sam, I'll turn it over to you if you want to give a little bit more on your background and all that good stuff.
Okay. General background. I, kind of grew up watching 80s movies and 90s movies. So I always had a love for wanting to, not just firearms, but how they work and more in depth about them. And then I was in the Army for a while. I was a gunner on the Abrams, the M1A2s. So that's what's carried over into my PRS experiences. It was my job to locate, range, and engage targets in a certain amount of time. And then also we have to learn about the different rounds and like how our ballistic computer is going to change between different rounds, between a sabot or a heat round. They're going to have different velocities basically. So you have to make sure you index them, and that's where most of my background is. And then got out of the Army, went to college for a little bit. While I was in the Army, my truck did end up, I got some pretty bad TBI. I walked away and everything was fine, but I got my bell rung by an EFP that hit our MRAP. And then, went to college, fast forward, got out, went to college, and then, couldn't find my footing or like the group of people that I wanted to be around. And I'm in recovery myself. So it took a few years, and then like as I got out of a dark place in my life, I found long range shooting in 2018, and there wasn't many matches in this area between Colorado and Wyoming. There'd be like one every 3-4 months, and now there's a match like every weekend. So I've gone from getting the cheapest setup you can possibly have to get by to now I'm a firm believer in buy once, cry once.
I'm definitely with you. I started out the same way. What's the best budget thing I can get? Now it's like, okay, after you buy that budget, Savage or whatever, which is a good starter, but then you're like, okay, I'm changing this up. It's just do a custom, buy top of line and cry once, and you're going to be a lot happier in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So that's the majority of my background. Just like a lot of us guys, we kind of, I dive pretty deep into any hobby that I go into. Like I've did the whole BMX thing throughout all my teenage years into my 20s, and traveled around doing contests and stuff like that. And then I did the whole, working out, powerlifting and bodybuilding thing, and dove into a hole, and then you only reach so far. Like, I need more information, and then once you find like long range shooting and reloading, like the info is almost endless for how deep you want to get into the weeds. Especially when it comes to reloading. Like, I got friends that shoot the Night Force ELR, and they are weight sorting their bullets and their brass and their primers. For PRS, I don't do any of that. I shoot a dasher that's super easy to reload for. I just put 30 grains of Argot in it, and I don't do any seating depth testing because it just works. And it just is kind of an easy button.
Yeah, they just had the steel challenge, and it's literally 5 miles from my house. So I saw all the people going by. It's like, oh, didn't get a chance to do it this year. Maybe next year.
Yeah, next year they had a 50 cal limit. I wanted to bring the 50 with our can and like shoot a match to show people, but I think 416 might be the biggest. I just thought there was a restriction, especially shooting targets to like 700 or 800 is their lowest or
Yeah.
their shortest range. The steel would just get kind of tore up. So next year I plan on doing it. I'll either take the PRC or the Norma, either or. I think will be a good choice for that one. Some of my friends are shooting 6.5 Creedmoor and doing pretty well.
Yeah, I want to say it was year 2 when they posted what the pros were shooting. I was surprised to see how many 6.5s were actually being shot there. I figured with the average being 1,200 yard target, give or take, and further out, I figured people would be shooting that, the 300 Norma, the Lapuas stuff, the bigger stuff. But I was surprised how some of the smaller stuff was actually doing really well.
Yeah. I mean, from my own experience, I shot a 6.5 Creed pretty far. Some of my reloading experience that I've played with is I'm a big 223 bolt gun guy. So I've designed reamers that are custom throated to shoot the heaviest bullets. So I run the 88 grain ELDs. I can seat them out really far, so that means I could put more powder in the case. And I've messed with them going super fast. Only getting like 2 or 3 firings out of some brass. But when you look at the ballistics of like the 88 grain ELD going like 2850, there was a match. It was called Varmint Town Classic. It was 2 years ago, and they had targets going out to 1770. It was like a 1,200 and some change, 1,300 and some change, and then the mile. And I cleaned that stage with the 223 shooting those 88s.
Nice.
Which people, I have a Thunderbeast shirt on when I'm at the range, and they're like, "What are you shooting?" I'm like, "I'm shooting 223." I'm like, that can go that far? Yeah, it can.
Yeah. Yeah, you can do a lot of things with some of those smaller calibers. Just it's practice. You gotta get out there and actually put some rounds down range so you're comfortable with your equipment. You know what it can do and what it can't do, and basically know the limitations.
Yeah, you can push stuff pretty far nowadays, especially that there's like 22 rimfire ELR competitions that go to like 600 yards. That's just kind of crazy to me. I've shot a handful of NRL 22 matches, and super fun, but you only shoot to like 100, 150 yards. And then they have these ones where you're shooting, 600 yards with subsonic 22 ammo.
God, I can't get my head wrapped around that. That's just crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. So I guess we can kind of get on. I know Miss Sharinda has asked me numerous questions because she knows I'm a dealer, and especially a Thunderbeast dealer, and I'm biased. I like Thunderbeast, obviously, because it's one of those buy once, cry once. We were actually just talking about it a little bit before you came on. Even as deaf as I am from the Army and the time in the infantry, I can still hear a distinct tone and see a difference between a Thunderbeast and some of the lesser brands. But the biggest questions we get, as far as what I've gotten, obviously, is maybe you can walk us through, Sam, of selecting a suppressor, length versus application. Because I know, like, I've got one of the 338s. That's a a big can. I've got an Ultra 7, I've got a 22, obviously different caliber. You're not going to spin that up on a 30 cal, but how do you, when somebody calls Thunderbeast and talks to Sam, what do you do when you walk them through as far as selecting the right suppressor for what they're trying to do?
So the first thing I'm going to ask them is what platform they plan on using for it. Like, is it for hunting? Is it for just regular target shooting? Is it for competition? We get a lot of, DoD sales and stuff like that. So usually Ray handles a lot of those, but I'll get a lot of calls and questions from my buddies that are still in that'll ask about our cans and stuff. But basically I want to figure out what platform, what caliber, and like, even if they're just a hunter, be like, well, do you like to go shoot for fun? Do you like to just go plink around? So that's kind of the first thing that I ask to help narrow down those decisions for them. For example, I have, in Wyoming, tons of people have property. There's a guy that has a coyote problem getting into his cattle. And his neighbors, they said they don't mind it, but they don't like it a lot when he's, taking him out and he's shooting unsuppressed. So he came in, he had some 224 Valkyrie that, he shows it can shoot really good. He's like, I'm trying to find something for my neighbors. They don't like the gunshot. So immediately he gets to take comfortable shots. Like he can set up, he can go prone on like his tailgate or on a tripod or something. So he wants the quietest. So basically what I'm going to, sell him on is, so the quietest 30 cal can on the market right now is the Magnus. So that would be his best option. So that's kind of what I got him on, and he's been super happy about it. What else? Guys that they kind of want like a do-all can, like, like the hybrid 46, like, well, I want a can that does everything. Well, that's great and all, but like our kind of philosophy is, why don't you get the perfect tool for the job? Not something that's just mediocre, like get the perfect tool to fit that perfect thing that you're trying to do, and kind of go from there. Like, for example, our Dominus line, the Dominus SRK, it's a short can. I think I got one. So our Dominus K is a super short suppressor. It's 5.45 inches long. And this was for a military contract. The regular SR suppresses a lot better than this, but the guys and the operators using this, they already have comms on anyway. So they just want to take the edge off as much as they can. So this fits that bill perfect for what they like to do. So SWAT teams, operators, this is kind of like their go-to can. So, everyone has a different needs for their suppressors. So I kind of just try to walk them through it. The typical hunter, it's only going to take a couple shots a year. Our flagship suppressor, which is the Ultra 7, that's like the flagship of Thunderbeast. That's kind of what gave him the name. It's compact, it suppresses really well, it's really light. So that one I've just noticed sells the most. And then you'll get people like that. Well, like, I hunt a little bit, and then I like taking my gas gun or my AR to the range. The Ultra 7 will work great on that as well. We have a couple videos on YouTube, and I'll put them on our social media. That's the other thing, is I do our social media now for Thunderbeast. So I run our Instagram and Facebook page. So if dealers want me to reshare that they have stuff in stock, I've been trying to do that as much as I can to help dealers out. So for people to keep in mind. But back to the suppressing gas guns. I know there's flow-through cans, and I know people think they're great because you don't have to tune anything. Well, we've proven if you get an adjustable gas system and tune the suppressor to that rifle, unlike the Dominus SR, on like an untuned upper, and then an upper that we tuned, there was an 11 dB difference between the two.
That is huge when you're talking.
Yeah. And dB ratings are not linear, right? So, so even though it's just 10, like that number is huge.
Yeah, and I know that's one thing. When I started, before I got my FFL and SOT, I started watching Ray's videos, and that's one thing I really appreciated what he was doing early on, is comparing what you guys are doing to other ones, and with the actual at the shooter's ear, because as you know from being in the military and shooting gas guns, depending on if you're right or left, that's the ear you're going to start losing hearing in more because of that lovely little bolt. And that was a lot more impressive to me, seeing what was going on, because I was like, okay, that's something tangible I can see and touch. It's going to help me because I don't want to lose hearing. And I know that's what like a lot of people, that why they get into suppressors is because they want to preserve that hearing that they already have or have lost. So I guess the next question is, what do you guys see at Thunderbeast? Because I know you've probably done this testing, as standard velocity bullets or loads versus subsonic, as far as sound difference, and what do you recommend based off a situation, plinking versus hunting type thing, or match versus hunting?
Well, anything that's subsonic, obviously gravity is going to be pulling that bullet down pretty significantly once it leaves the barrel. The only thing subs are really good for is if you're trying to make it as quiet as possible. Let me see if I can pull up the data. So when you shoot the Magnus with full power 308 out of a bolt gun, it's registering pretty close to 300 blackout subs through a gas gun. I'm going to pull up the spec sheet I have at work for that. Give me 1 second here. But everything in terms of testing, the only subsonics that we test and meter is 9mm subs and 300 blackout subs. Everything else we don't really mess with. I've been noticing it on our Instagram that people think that we're shooting 50 cal subs, which I've never even heard of. We're basically using just 50 cal ammo that we used on the M2. And then we have like the 650 AMAXs that we're doing accuracy testing with the can on. All right, I'm trying to pull it up here. It's on our server at work, so I don't have access to that sheet here, but back to shooting subsonics in full power. That's kind of what we test, is just the 9mm subs. There were some 45 subs too that we tested. 4570 Hornady makes an awesome subsonic round. When we're doing these events and someone wants to, for some reason, if no one's heard of us, anyone that's heard of us knows that we're like the precision guys. Mm-hmm. Like that's what we're known for. Well, going to these demos where people haven't heard of us, they see this Mad Pig Customs 4570 and they're like, I want to shoot that. That looks way cooler. I'm like, the 50 doesn't look cool. Or this AI 300 PRC with a Magnus, like that doesn't look cool. But they go for that 4570. So my whole thing at that one was I was giving them one super and one sub. Mm-hmm. And you could, without even metering it, you could notice a huge difference, and then a huge difference in recoil too. But does that kind of answer your question about the subs?
Yeah, because I know I get that a lot of that, like especially with 22, people are like, I gotta have that subsonic 22, and it's like, you're not gonna, usually at the shooter ear, you're not gonna hear that big of a difference, guys. I just shoot standard velocity. If you want to shoot get some subs for just plinking, by all means, cool, go do it. But if you're going out shooting varmints, deer, antelope, elk for us up here in Wyoming, I would not even think about shooting a subsonic round at one of those animals. That's just me
Oh no,
personally.
definitely here in Wyoming, you want something. You got to cover a lot of ground. So
Yeah.
I grew up hunting waterfowl my whole childhood, but I never hunted big game. And then, I went in the Army, and then I actually had no ambition to ever hunt. And I just went on my first hunt for antelope last year. And I'm originally from Colorado. I live in Wyoming. So it was my first hunt for antelope. I've already been in the long range competition world for a while. And then I was realizing, like, we're getting to some area north of Rawlins. I think it was like area 63. I can't quite remember. But it's vast, and there's tons of antelope out there, and you have a lot of ground to cover. So, subsonic round is not going to get you a shot at like 500, so you're looking out there and it's so vast, and like you start to catch up to them a little bit. You're like, man, I'm going to have to take a long shot.
Yeah.
The shot I took, I ranged him at like 560, and then he kept walking away, ranged him at 580, and then just deployed my tripod and just kind of waited for him to turn, and then sent it. And I was just using a 308. That's what I practice with for competition shooting, and then it just has good recoil impulse to get you trained on the calibers that don't recoil as much. But after that, I've been looking at like wanting to get a 28 Nosler or the 7 PRC, to be able to cover all that ground. And then obviously with the winds that we get, being able to dodge that wind a little bit more would be a huge help.
Yeah, I know I'm currently building a 7 PRC because I've got the 300 and I love that thing, but I kind of want that 7 for something different too. I know we've had another question, Sam, and this comes up a lot. And I know I've seen the videos from Ray, and he's discussed this. A lot of people figure, well, I need a 5.56 can for a 5.56. I need a 30 for a 30. You guys really don't offer a actual cans or a 5.56 anymore. So we get questions of what are the differences when you're using a 30 cal can on a Valkyrie or some of the smaller stuff? What are you seeing?
Like for example, our 5.56 can is the Dominus, even though it's a 30 cal bore. So we've tested it with different bore sizes, and the amount of performance didn't exceed the versatility that we could make the suppressor. So just like for any of our Ultra series that have a 6.5 bore or 30 cal bore, you're only gaining a dB or two. When it comes to like the Dominus that's made for 5.56, even though it's 30 cal, we tested it with smaller bores and it just was not giving any more impressive numbers. So we're like, you know what, let's make it 30, the gas flow a little bit better. And then they'll have versatility down the road to put it on, something else.
So, I mean, where we were talking subsonic and standard velocity, we kind of already know the answer. As far as load data for normal standard velocity, you can pick up any reloading manual and you're going to find whatever bullet you're using. If somebody wants subsonic data, where would you recommend as a suppressor company they look for? Because I know that can, depending on what you're trying to do, it can be kind of hard to find at times.
It's really hard to find. For example, I've been trying to reload 308 subs just for fun. And just all interest, I'd like to see how far I can actually like hit consistently with subsonics. So the number one powder of choice for that is Trail Boss. Trail Boss has not been available I haven't seen a pound of that in years since kind of COVID. There's some other ones, like you got to beware of some of the forums because there's some guys like, well, you could do pistol
I'll hide
powder
over here, Sam, so you can't find my Trail Boss.
Yeah, and it's not even a pound. It's like what, 10 ounces or something, or like 8 ounces.
Yeah,
and it's a full jug.
Something like that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of forums that give you options for different pistol powders. Um, but just like anything, like you can't trust everything you do on the internet. I know on Hodgdon has like a reloading portal.
Mhm.
And depending on, they don't, there isn't really subsonic data for like 6.5 Creedmoor, but 308 is kind of a big one.
Mhm.
So if you go to their page, you should be able to find, if you go to like the really heavy bullets, because that's what you're going to want is the heavy bullets. And then you can pick a powder and it'll have a couple options for a pistol powder. Or at least it did when I was checking about a year ago to want to venture into the subsonic thing.
I know we just had a question asked, and I kind of already know this answer. We had a listener on Rumble wanting to know, as far as buying a suppressor from Thunderbeast, do they have to go to a dealer or can they go direct to Thunderbeast?
They can order directly through us, but they'll have to have be in contact with an FFL and SOT dealer in their area to be able to accept a transfer on their behalf. I've been noticing a lot lately. A lot of dealers are like doing away with random transfers. Like they stamp it on their FFL, like no transfers. We stopped doing it too, just because we're getting too many of like random stuff coming in. And then there's no notes. Like we have this rifle or we have this can and we don't know who it goes to. And it'll be missing crucial information. Like they didn't send a copy of their FFL SOT. So it's just kind of a headache. But basically, if we have a little bit of a backlog, it's about 8 to 10 weeks, but you can still order through us direct. We do 10% veteran Leo discounts for anyone. But most likely the case is I can find one in stock in your area fairly quickly.
Yeah. What was another question? So as far as kind of back up to like the suppressor selection before we go down, as far as like you already touched on bullet selection, stuff like that. I know. Can you explain the differences, say, through some of the models you have, like the Dominus versus the Ultra series, so kind of the listeners and the viewers can kind of get a better idea of, as far as that selection of what they should be looking for?
Yeah. So our main Ultra series is Ultra 5. It's a 5-inch can. Ultra 7, 7-inch in length. Ultra 9, which is a 9-inch can. They all have a 1.5-inch diameter. Versus the Dominus, this is where the Dominus shines, is it has a larger diameter. So it's 1.800. So that way gas can kind of flow through it a little bit better and suppresses a lot better. The Ultra 5 is for people that need to keep it as compact for their long hiking trips or, where they're going way up into the mountains and rucking everything up. Like that's a really good option. It's just going to take the edge off for that one shot that they're going to take. I always try to get people to step up to the Ultra 7 at least. Weight is not going to be that much different, but that extra 2 inches is really going to suppress a lot better. And then our Dominus line kind of hops in there. So whether it's the CB or SR, those are the same can, just have different mounting systems. But to me, the Dominus suppresses slightly better than the 7, but not as good as a 9. So that range is a really popular range because they don't want something really long on the end of their barrel. So that's a really good option. And then you have the Ultra 9, which is going to, everything below that, it's going to suppress a lot better. And then you go 2 steps up from there for the 338 Ultra, which is 10.4 inches long in the BA configuration. And then that's 11 and a quarter with the SR mount. And then you also have our Magnus, which is like our Magnum 30 cal can. And that one is at 9 inches. If they're not worrying about price, especially now, I think the Magnus is going to like wash away the Ultra 9. Because if they're already going to get a long can, you might as well get one that the Magnus has a 1.8 inch diameter. So it's going to suppress way better than the Ultra 9. And the numbers, I think the shooter's ear number for the Ultra 9 is like 121 at the shooter's ear with like 6.5 or 308, and then the Magnus is like 111. So it's a huge difference for like the same length and can, and I think it's only like 3 or 4 ounces heavier, 3 ounces heavier.
So if somebody's calling you guys, like I got you on the phone. I'm like, hey Sam, I'm ready to order my first suppressor. What information do they need to have on hand for you as far as specs that they're going to have to cough up so they make sure they don't blow themselves up, if you will, because doing something crazy?
Definitely whatever caliber they're shooting. One caveat that we give to anyone that I give suppressor advice to, is you got to make sure your muzzle threads are concentric. We see it time and time again, even from high-end companies. We basically spend a big chunk of time of fixing factory threads. We check run out on every one of our suppressors as they leave the door. We're in the precision game, so we want stuff to be perfect. But when it comes to, we got our run out and everything's all good, well, now it goes on whatever weapon system they're putting it on, that the threads have to be perfect. And that's one of the biggest things we see. Like, I can't really list names, but let's just say the most popular hunting rifle brands out there, we consistently see alignment issues with their threads from the factory.
I think a lot of that comes that they're mass producing that versus, coming to me, Chris the gunsmith, and me spinning up a barrel for you. It's going to be done a lot differently than that mass produced stuff. Yep. So I guess when you're looking at your suppressors, I know you guys obviously you just kind of touched, you get warranty issues probably because somebody shoots that can off. What are you seeing maybe issue-wise where people are sending in because of the reloads they're doing? Is it causing any problems, or can it cause problems with suppressors based off what you're doing with your reloads?
So we get pretty deep into the weeds for when it comes to like basically pressure ratings for our suppressors. So as you can see on most of them, the Dominus line is the only exception. If you're running like big 30 cal magnums, you have to have a super long barrel, but every other can, you can run it super short, which means the shorter the barrel with the higher the cartridge, the more uncorking pressure. So the more pressure that's going into that suppressor to possibly cause damage. So that's why we have those barrel length restrictions. But we have some of the shortest in the game. Like when we tested the 338 Ultra, we shot it on a 14.5-inch 338 Lapua. And we did cycle after cycle after cycle, and it can withhold quite a bit. So as long as they're not going overbore, I haven't seen any warranty issues with people running super hot loads. It also depends on what they're running a super hot load in. When you get into the bigger magnums like the Norma, the ROM, we have basically a thing on the page for some of our cans. Like if you're exceeding 80 to 90 grains of powder, run it through us and we'll run it through engineering. And we'll basically give people a heads up like, hey, we're going to run that through engineering. Let me know what powder, how much, and what bullet grain. And then we can basically give you a number and tell you like, this is the shortest barrel you can go. Like I had a one a couple months ago, someone asking about a 300 Terminator, which I think it's like a 300 338 Lapua neck down, but has like an Ackley shoulder. It's something really weird. But we ran it through engineering and we were able to find a couple cans that he could use that on.
So that's good to know. If somebody's got real good questions, just call you guys up at the end of the day and say, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Am I good? Or tell me I'm not.
Yeah, definitely emailing is the best way. If they email that, we are able to get through it because we're able to just forward the info to our engineers. And then it kind of reminds me if you guys have ever seen Office Space. I'm that guy. Like I'm trying to explain what the engineers are doing, so they don't have to because they don't have people skills. So that's kind of what I do at Thunderbeast.
We had another question, kind of back to talking the concentric and the threads and stuff. How does the end user, is there a tool or what's out there for the end user to kind of check at their level rather than having to go find a gunsmith or sending it in to somebody else?
Well, I know it's a pain, but finding a local competent gunsmith is going to be the best method. If you can't do that, I know Geisley makes alignment rods. The one thing of that, like sometimes we don't recommend them because we'll get people with pictures of their alignment rod and like, hey, do you see it's like it's closer to one side than the other? Well, a lot of that is you have a rod in there and it's not, they're made for certain bore sizes, but they could still have just a slight bit of play in there that's making the bar look like there's like a higher gap up top than at the bottom, just because of the way that it sags a little bit in the barrel. So those do help. The best method that I've found is whether it's a bolt gun or a gas gun, you pull the bolt carrier group, and then you, with the suppressor mounted, make sure you look down the barrel and you can't see any what we call a mooning effect. You're kind of looking in there, and if you see anything mooning from like the basically the rifling, then you know that there possibly might be a alignment issue.
I know another question I've received as a dealer gunsmith is direct thread versus quick detach. Okay. There's always, you got the camps. It's direct thread always or quick detach, and you're fine. Usually nothing in between.
So primarily who I deal with is PRS shooters, and there's been a lot more suppressed only matches. Well, when they're not shooting suppressed, they're running, a really good company's brake, like American Precision Arms. I have an Ace brake that I have for occasion, even though I don't plan on shooting unsuppressed anymore with our new Magnus can. So for those guys that are going to be swapping back and forth, a direct thread can is perfect for them. If they're going to be running some other company's brake, that's the only exception that I'll really push direct thread cans. Otherwise, the way our engineers made our CB, SR, and BA brakes is it has that conical shoulder. So what we recommend is you use red Loctite 272 onto the barrel threads, tighten your brake on there, let it set for 24 hours. And then you use that brake to mount your suppressor, and you're not going to get the brake stuck in the suppressor. You don't have to worry about it backing off. I run all CB style for like field matches and PRS matches, and I've never had a can come loose with that method. So red Loctiting the brake onto the barrel, and then tighten my can on. And it secures just the way that it's secure into that conical face and the threads, it's not coming loose.
I know in the past when suppressors were first coming out, you had to time them basically to your barrel. Is that a thing with the Thunderbeast stuff, or?
So we have non-timed brakes now. So when I first started there, I was trying to do the whole peel washer thing. So basically each CB brake or timed brake, so SR and BA, they'll come with a tiny peel washer that has 2,000 shims. So the whole process, you got to heat up the laminate and kind of break it off, and then you'll get a razor blade and then peel off each shim. And then you're basically peeling it off to make sure your brake is getting timed. So like, it's really close, but I got to take off another shim. And then you loosen it and then try it again. And it's a big trial and error kind of thing. So I think it was about a year and a half ago, we released non-timed brakes that don't require a peel washer. I think I got one. All right, so this is our regular CB brake. So it'll have basically 2 ports on each. If someone is only shooting suppressed, they don't have to worry about the peel washer. They can just tighten this on. It doesn't matter where it's oriented. Once the can is on, it's not going to affect anything, only when you're shooting unsuppressed. But we released these guys, which is the non-timed brake. So it has 5 ports on each side. So you just put red Loctite in your barrel, tighten this down. to 20 foot-pounds, and then you're done. Same with the SR brakes. We've got timed and non-timed as well.
Cool. Before we start kind of getting into the match stuff, I was kind of hogging this up. I'll see if any of the hosts got any questions for you.
Okay.
Anyone? Bueller?
Mine's is definitely a phone call in or an email.
Emails are great. We respond to them really, really quick.
Let me schedule an appointment to go sell a kidney right quick.
It's not that bad, Sharinda. Trust me.
Sharinda, are you a dealer?
No,
No.
I am not.
Yeah.
I wish I was.
Yeah. I'm on the panel. I'm the only one that has an FFL and an SOT and a dealer, so I get a lot of those types of questions. Of, hey, it's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm just a toddler that wants everything and has all the questions.
Yeah, and not all the money like me.
Exactly.
Shren and I are that same group where we want a lot of things, but neither of us have the fundage to do a lot. So,
Yeah. You guys should do what I do. I created an OnlyFans to fund my PRS hobby. It's been great. You know, I make
Are you doing
plenty of
pinky?
subscriptions each month.
Are you doing pinky toe? I'm thinking
Yeah,
about
exactly.
pinky finger.
It's all mashing food up with my feet, and I make quite a bit of money.
oh, he fits right in.
Y'all laughing. It really does need to be a thing.
I told you guys, Sam is a hell of a guy.
That was perfect, Sam.
Okay, I lost my train of thought there for a second now. So I guess we get a lot of questions too, Sam. Matches. I know before I shot, I was actually going to shoot my first match with you on New Year's Eve, but I was getting out of the hospital, and my doctor basically said no. So I kind of missed that little winter freeze one down there we had going on. But for people considering wanting to get into shooting matches, PRS matches, or NL hunter stuff like that, I obviously know it's a big hurdle for a lot of because nerves. You're like, oh, I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to do this. I got to have the $10,000 kit. What should people be considering? And what should they be looking at least at the match first, before they start worrying about their gear?
The best thing that they can do, especially in this day and age, so rewind back to 2018 when matches weren't as prevalent as they are now. I had a basic Remington 700 with a factory barrel. I just put a KRG Bravo, which is a really, pretty cheap stock. And I thought I was like ready to go. I had no one helping me. Like everything that I did, I had to like research. I bought a reloading book. I bought a couple different, there was some Navy SEAL sniper book that I bought in 2017 that had tons of info about their rifle setups, ballistics, and that kind of intrigued me a little bit. And then being deployed, we, deployed with snipers and stuff. I was always intrigued by it. But getting ready for a match, I didn't have anyone helping me out. And I go to my first match and everyone else is pretty new at it too. Like everyone's using like their hunting rifle still at this point. I learned a lot from that first match, but now like for my match, of course, I have a loaner rifle program. So I have a fully built custom rifle. I provide the ammo. I provide them dope and all that. And it's been a little bit of trial and error just because I do get a lot of inquiries about like, hey, I want to come out. I want to shoot a match. I'm like, well, have you ever shot before? Have you ever shot a firearm? Simple questions like that. So now I'm making it not mandatory for my match, but if they come to me to one of our YCO match leagues. So YCO PRL is between Wyoming and Colorado. So Colorado Springs, Pawnee, and then up here is Cheyenne, Laramie, and Rollins. And we're all part of a series. So about every weekend a month, one of these is going on. So I tell them they can either meet me at one of those and then kind of just come and hang out and like get a feel for it. Because anytime they do that, like any of our group of friends that sees a new guy, when there's a chance, like, hey, do you want to shoot my rifle? Do you want to try it out? Do you want to look behind it? everyone is so open about wanting to help and get people into it. So that's one thing. Just show up to a match and just kind of spectate and watch. There's a lot of different style of matches out there where if you're going there to spectate, they want you to work. Like they want you to be a range officer and spot. And none of these local matches will ever expect you to do any of that. We actually, in the process of us shooting and competing, we actually want to like train and get people interested in doing it. But to show you how much it's grown since 2018, the first match I went to, I think there was 25 people, which they told me that was like the most they've ever had. And then I found out Cheyenne had someone doing matches every now and then, and they would only have a max of like 10 or 12 people. So you fast forward to now, I get, 50 to 70 people every month. So that kind of just shows how big it's grown, how huge the competitive world is getting in the long range world. But that's the best thing they can do is show up, and they'll be able to get behind other people's equipment, especially when it comes to scopes. That's one of my biggest things is, man, go look through a few first, because I've owned every scope that there is and have found little things that I don't like about it, and then I move to the next one. So I've wasted a lot of money doing that, buying, selling, trading, trying to get, the scope that best suits me.
So for Sharinda's going to her first PRS match at, what is the minimum set of gear would you like? They're already in, they know they're going. What's the minimum set of gear they need to show up with for, say, your match?
Well, I have plenty of extra stuff. Like I have extra bags, I have an extra tripod. I'm working on getting an extra pair of good binos. The basic would be a rifle that can shoot at least a minute of angle. That's pretty standard. A lot of us get into details, like we want it shooting tiny little groups, but in all honesty, gun that's shooting an inch group at 100 yards is going to be plenty good. And if the SDs are good, if anyone doesn't know the standard deviation, so like whatever speeds they're shooting, it doesn't really fluctuate that much, they're going to be good to go. So a rifle that can do that, and then you want a scope that you can dial the turrets. So I prefer mills. It's way easier to get you and your buddies on track and like adjust dope. You're not counting quarter clicks or anything like that. You're just 3.6. You just dial to 3.6 versus MOA. Like, I think I'm 12 and 3/4 MOA. It just takes that extra time. It's doable. I have a couple friends that still shoot that way. That's how they prefer. It's just easier when you're shooting with other people and trying to like work together. But a scope that tracks, that you can dial, you kind of want a reticle that has subtensions on it, so that way you can measure. Like for example, it's super windy in Wyoming. It's 25-mile-an-hour wind. You're shooting a target at 500 yards, and your dope or your data is telling you, oh, you got to hold 1.5 mils. So you put it at 1.5, and it's way more wind than it's supposed to. So basically you want that reticle to go look like, well, this is where I was holding, and this is where I saw the bullet go. So you want to measure it, add that onto your dope that you were holding to be able to get an impact. So having a reticle inside your scope is a +2. Also, there's some people that get into it to get a bolt gun. You want to make sure it can hold 10 rounds. You see some people go that they only have like a 5-round mag, and they're doing a mag change every stage, and that could just it's doable. It can just make you eat up some time and not get as much shooting in for that day, basically. A bipod, a decent bipod, I would definitely recommend. For mostly the PRS and field matches, you're not going to be taking like basically freestanding shots or anything like that. It's all going to be on an obstacle of some sorts, or like some type of prone or modified prone. We're shooting small targets out to between 3 and 1,400 yards is like the typical. So yeah, a good bipod, a good rear bag if you have it. You don't need a bunch of bags. I found the best universal bag is made by Armageddon Gear. It's called a Game Changer. That is by far the best bag. What else?
You froze there for a second, Sam.
That's kind of the gist of everything you need. I mean, you'll want DOPE, of course. So people that don't know what DOPE stands for, it's data on previous engagements. So you want to be comfortable with knowing how far you can shoot your rifle accurately. A ballistic solver helps. You know, there's a ton of those on phones nowadays. Is everyone still there?
Yep. I think I hear you, Sam. It looks like your picture froze, though.
Your screen's frozen, Sam, but your audio came through just fine.
There he is.
Oh, there we go.
Welcome back.
It went dead on me for a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know where it died at, so you'll have to.
You were discussing about DOPE and what DOPE was.
Yeah, DOPE is data on previous engagements. So that's taking your precision long rifle out and being able to comfortably shoot at a bunch of various different ranges. Some people, the older way is having a hard DOPE card. So basically you have your set range for your set altitude, and you know that you can hold this much to hit a target at 700 yards. You know, if you have hard DOPE like that, you can usually get by. There's tons of ballistic solvers on phones nowadays. I use a Kestrel Elite. I actually just recently started using it. Before that, which they say it's banned, but I've run the Straylock Pro. And that's been the best user-friendly solver that I've seen. It's super easy to use, and it's 100% accurate. I've actually won quite a few matches by just using Straylock. And it was really hard. I had a Kestrel for like a whole year, and I didn't touch it for like 6 months because I'm like, this is working for me. I don't want to change it. So I would use it to get a good win, you know, a good win value, and then I would just plug it into Straylock.
Yeah, I read somewhere that what's his name, Ivan, the one that created it. It's because he's in Russia. They banned it from being on or updates or whatever, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, mine still works. So
yeah, mine still works. It's just we can't get an update for any new reticles or anything like that he's putting out. So it's like, well, I still got it on my phone. I'll still use it.
yeah,
Hold on, guys. Paul's got a question.
Yeah, it's not available for sale anymore on there because of the Russian invasion. They pulled it off of Google and on the Apple Store too. And Sam, you were talking about Dope Book.
Yeah.
They make these, which is from Impact Data. So you can use these to record your shooting and your targets and everything else. Keep all the information on a gun in there. So from how many rounds you put through it before you've done something to, you know, cold bore shift if you have one, to anything that's out there. So people ought to take a look into it, just because it's good for keeping record on your match guns.
Yeah, totally. I have something similar. I have a big whiteboard that's in front of the computer here that has all the different barrels that I have, and then it'll have what round count it's on, which is super important, especially when you're shooting like a smaller 6mm like me. Like when you're getting up there in round count, you know the barrel's getting close to going out on you. And then for cleaning is with the yellow Sharpie, I mark it when I clean it. So that way, I went to the range, I shot 40 rounds. So I'll like put the new addition and just keep adding it on, but then I'll put a yellow mark for when I cleaned it last. So when I get to, like for my PRS rifle, I don't clean it for probably 300 rounds. I might run if it was a dusty match, I'll probably run a couple patches through to get all that stuff out of there. But for the most part, I don't clean them, until like 300 rounds. And that's for all calibers, whether it's my 6.5, my 308, my 223. I just found that that's kind of what works best for me. You get a bore scope, you end up worrying about stuff that doesn't even matter. I usually specifically use it to find a carbon ring and that I need to clean it, and that's it.
I'm a little more aggressive than you are in cleaning because I'm basically a prairie dog shooter. So I go out and I think barrels are there for gunsmiths to practice on. So, I've still been waiting for Chris to get his lathe. We have a question here. Matt Gorman wants to know, first focal plane or second?
First focal plane all the way. Second focal plane, I still can't. So I'm hoping I'm not offending anyone here, but if you have a scope that's second focal plane and it has a reticle, but it's only true at one power, then basically the reticle is useless. Because if you're shooting at different powers, but the reticle doesn't change, then you have to do all this math to it's at 16 power, the reticle's true, but I'm going to shoot at 25 power. So then I have to multiply this or divide that. It's just kind of a headache. And it just makes me think of the Leupold Mark IV that second focal plane has MOA turrets and has a mil dot reticle.
Right. Mills are easier to figure out distances with too, because everything's by 1,000, so you can deal with it that way. But yeah, first focal plane definitely.
Oh, for sure. It's just easier. Like they're giving you a reticle to be able to measure stuff. Might as well use it. It also makes zeroing easier. So if you have a first focal plane scope and you're going to the 100-yard range, I don't even put up a board anymore. Well, I'll put up a board, but I'll shoot into the dirt. I'll find a tiny little rock and I'll send one at it. And then I just use my reticle to measure it hit over here. So I need to go 0.6 left and come down 2 mils. And then making all those adjustments, I get on paper and I'm within less than an inch of where I'm supposed to be. So the reticle is really good for that aspect. Zeroing a duplex is always a pain. Be like, I think this is 2 inches, so I better go 2 MOA this way. And then you're always kind of dancing around where you actually want to be, versus when you have a reticle, whether it's MOA or mil, you can just measure it perfectly. Be like, I'm going to make these right adjustments and then reconfirm, and then you're solid.
So nowadays with cheaper scopes coming out that have good measurement, good click values, that means, there's a lot of them out there that now that you put in, 1.5 mil, it's moving 1.5 mil. What do you look for in a scope?
Like I said, I've tried every scope that's out there. I've had the Razor Gen 3. I had that new Zeiss. I've had a Tangent, the Night Force ATACR 7-35. I've literally tried them all because I couldn't quite find what best worked for me. So basically, in a scope, what I look for is you want to make sure it tracks. Check out reviews, and if people are saying oh, it tracks, not everyone gets time to do a tracking board test, tall target track. Yeah. Not everyone has time for that. You can do it if you put one dot on a big board, like a 100-yard target board, you could basically dial 2 mils in each direction and then see how it groups and then measure it, and you could kind of test it that way. But obviously making sure it tracks, that's always good. Always looking at reviews. The scope that I run now, that I've been running the last 2 years, is the Zero Compromise, the 5-27.
Which is a reasonable price scope on the market for what you're looking at. It's not like a tangent theta or a S&B. Um, so that's a reasonable price scope nowadays.
Yeah, you can find used Zecos for I think like $3,200 on some of the forums. You can find Schmidt and Bender PM2s for like 2,000. You can find them from really good prices. But mainly, regardless of price, when I first started doing it, I bought one of those Cabela's Covenant scopes because it had a reticle, it had mill turrets, it looked like it said it was like 5 to 35 or some high power. I'm like, oh, for $400, like I'm going to give that a go. Well, when I got it and took it to the range, and it's like just the end of springtime, the mirage was so bad that I couldn't even see to 300 on low power. So I'm like, oh, this is why this is so cheap. So then I would upgrade to like the Vortex Viper Gen 2, which was a great scope. And then you'd notice on hot days, the mirage would just like, what I've noticed through all the scopes and comparing them all like on a single day is like the Viper Gen 2, the mirage really kicks in at like 400 or 500 yards. And then it's super hard to see beyond that. Then you step up in glass and you notice you can see a little bit further before the mirage really starts to distort the targets. To where I noticed comparing the tangent and the Zico, no matter how miragey or hot it is, like that, the way they do their glass, you can just really kind of cut through it and really see targets at distance, kind of with that high-end glass. I don't know if it's the coatings or the way they do their nitrogen purge. I can talk about suppressors, but scopes, I know the basics and I know good glass quality.
So it's the glass quality that you're looking at now. That's what you're looking at is the glass.
Yeah, and I've tried using other stuff like I had a Leupold Mark V. Those are great scopes, but I did notice on some of the matches where it would be hot out, targets were blurry at like 500 yards. So when we're shooting to 700 to 1,200 yards, I can't see where I'm impacting. I can't see anything. I can't even tell even if I hit the edge of a plate and it moves, I can't even tell.
Well, it's like the 2 prairie dog test. You sit down and you're looking at a scope with mirage, and you see one prairie dog and another one right above it.
Yep.
And it's the one that's below is the one you want to shoot at, but because the other one is the one rising.
Yep. Yeah, there's 2 different styles of mirage. There's hot mirage and then polar mirage. And that's just like you were talking about the difference. Like hot mirage, you're going to want to aim lower, and then polar mirage, you're going to want to aim higher. Don't quote me on it. I could have it mixed up, but that's just from.
You got it right. I mean, hot mirage is the target is actually rising because of the light bending. So.
Yep.
Okay, back to suppressors now. All right, we have Sharenda that's over here. She's got a limited budget, and she is looking to buy a suppressor. She doesn't know how to pick one at this point.
Okay, so what are you going to use it for?
She's going to use it for shooting matches and some hunting and just plinking, going out target shooting.
So what I gather is I'm going to need to buy 2, huh?
Nope. You can buy one and it'll work for all those. It just depends on budget a little bit. For example, the Magnus suppressor that I was talking about, which is going to be this guy, which is the 9-inch can, but it is the quietest 30 cal can out there. I run this on everything. The reason I do that is because it's super quiet. I don't flinch when I'm shooting. If I forget my ears, I don't even notice. And then on top of that, it reduces recoil a bunch. So like this year in the PRS series, I've been shooting exceptionally well. And I owe that to, I think, shooting with the suppressor all year, because I can think when I'm on target. I can concentrate on my fundamentals or what the wind is doing, and I'm not like getting ready like, this break is going to tear me up. I'm not worrying about any of that. So if you plan on shooting matches and stuff like that, I would probably recommend this will be the best can that you possibly can get. Yeah, it'll be a little bit long. Otherwise, the Dominus will fit the bill for everything that you're trying to use it for. It'll be short, it'll suppress well, it's super light. You're not going to notice it on the end of the barrel.
Okay. How much would you say that roughly weighs?
The Dominus is 10.8 ounces. Uh, 9.6 ounces.
Okay.
And then the Magnus is 14.8. So, you're gaining just under 5 ounces in weight going with the bigger suppressor, of course.
But you have what, a 24 or 26 inch barrel on that gun? Shred
Me?
Yeah.
My barrel is 22 inches.
22. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is good, because that way a 9-inch suppressor isn't obnoxious. Because you can get with a 26 or a 28-inch barrel, there can be a lot of weight out there for a person.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the way PRS guns are being configured nowadays, with an 1.25 inch axle shaft out there, and a 9-inch suppressor, and a heavy chassis, and the next thing you know, you're at 22 to 26 pounds.
Yep, I kind of found the sweet spot for mine. I like it to be at like 18.5. For one, the heavier, the less recoil, the more you can stay on target. So it's a big plus to have weights on it. People run them all the way to like 28 pounds, which it's cool and all, but I'm, lugging it around. I just had back surgery just recently, so I've lightened it up. And I can just maneuver it just a little bit better in that range. But there's plenty of weight to reduce recoil. That's just the happy medium that I have found. But yeah, if you have a 22-inch barrel, I run the Magnus on a 26-inch barrel, so that's 9 inches on the 26-inch barrel. I haven't had it hinder me, even on stages where you have to fit your rifle through ports. I just step back an extra 6 inches to just kind of swing it out, and I haven't seen an issue with that.
There's a little bit of difference between what you can lift and what she can lift.
Yeah, exactly. So
I mean,
so
it's this is important. I mean, this is what we go through to try to fit something to a person. So, I mean, she doesn't have the arm strength or the reach that you have.
Yeah. So for that 22-inch barrel, I think the shorter can would be great. So an Ultra 7 or a Dominus, especially for your first can, I think that's going to be all around the best option to go for.
Okay, I'm writing this down.
She's our note taker for the show.
Nice. Yeah, I saw something in the notes about the Armageddon gear. You had the correct link. That's the bag that I'm talking about. Best all around bag that you could possibly get.
Oh, you're actually looking at the notes. Glad I was behaved.
So, yeah. So okay. So a shorter can for her. That. What kind of price range is she looking at? Now, this is as of June. 2023.
So the Dominus, the one that'll suppress just a little bit better in Ultra 7,
Yep.
Those are $1,330, and then an Ultra 7 is $1,180. And since you're part of the industry, you can reach out to us and we'll give you an industry discount. So it'll be pretty good.
She's now looking at you like you just became her new best friend, Sam.
Yeah,
the good news is,
yeah.
I was going to say the good news is Sharenda's rifle only weighs just a smidge under 10 pounds.
Oh,
without scope.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey Sam, we've got a question in the YouTube chat. Odar Sergeson, our guy overseas, the Magnus is available in 3 versions: CB, SR, and Hub. What are the main differences, and what is mostly used?
The mostly used is going to be the CB, which is just like our Ultra Series. They just attach to the same brakes. The SR is going to have that locking collar. So this guy that has the locking collar, that's just SR stands for secondary retention. So it's just going to attach to the brake and lock it in one more spot. It still has threads and a taper, so it's going to secure on there. But this was mainly for our military contract. This collar adds a pretty significant amount of weight when you're talking about our suppressors that are known for being light. So I would recommend the CB one. It'll be lighter and shorter. And then there's hub cans, which I haven't quite understood yet. We've proven that our mounts work really good, but there's just a big chunk of the industry that want hub is a universal mount. So the rear of the suppressor is threaded 1.375 by 24. So you can use a variety of other companies' mounts. So like Silencer Co., Dead Air, all those different quick detach mounts that they make, they can mount into our suppressor, and then they can use them on, the Dead Air brakes, Silencer Co. brakes. The only caveat to that, though, is we can't trust how they manufacture them. So if there's like a run out or consistency issue, that's on the end user. So like if they use someone's mount and they end up blowing a hole in the end of their can, that's going to be on the customer, unfortunately. But we do sell a lot of them. There's a lot of people that get them. That's probably my last choice. Like if I'm going to run another can, I really like Dead Air stuff in Otter Creek. Like if I was going to run their suppressors, I would want to run their brakes or their mounting systems.
And I'm kind of partial to that too. If I'm doing like with Thunderbeast, I run the Thunderbeast stuff. If I'm going to use somebody else's stuff, I'll use their stuff.
Yep, exactly.
I don't see any other questions.
So now on to reloading for a suppressor. Figuring at standard velocity, we're just going to use our standard tables, our standard books.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. There is a thing when, let's say you do your load data without a suppressor on it. By adding the suppressor to it, there is a thing that is called freebore boost. So sometimes when you put a suppressor on, it'll increase the velocity, which it varies. Sometimes it only increases 5 to 10 feet per second. Other times it could be up to 25 feet per second. It's just what we call freebore boost. In terms of doing a bunch of reloading, I reload everything that I shoot. I don't shoot any factory ammo, so I shoot a variety of calibers: 6mm Dasher, 6BR, 223. The 223 that I was talking about in the beginning, you strictly have to reload for. There's no factory ammo with 88 grain bullets. So when I'm doing the load data, I notice with our suppressors specifically, if I'm shooting it without the suppressor and I put it on, I notice, and this isn't a selling point or anything, I just kind of noticed the groups kind of tighten up. I have seen some issues, like a custom barrel, I think I mentioned that I had done, it had excessive run out. And I noticed a bunch of vertical stringing at distance when it didn't do that before with the brake. So I'm like, something's up. And then check the threads and it had excessive run out. That's the biggest thing that I've seen. But in terms of reloading, you don't have to reload any different. For the majority of people that already have a load set for their rifle with a brake, when they put a can on, it's more than likely 9 times out of 10 going to work.
How about people that don't use brakes? There's a lot of us out there that don't use a brake. I find a brake obnoxious, really.
Me too. Yeah, I'm not a fan.
So,
So you're just talking about like a regular
Yeah.
rifle crown?
Got a regular rifle crown. I'm going to take it to a gunsmith and I'm going to have him thread it. And, all my barrels are heavy barrels. So, they're all about 1 inch at the muzzle. So I can have them thread whatever I want. But I'm going to sit down and say, all right, is there I know there's a correct way to do it. And, using range rods and setting the, don't throw it a 3-draw chuck and expect it to be perfect, because a lot of times the barrel isn't perfect in the bore to the barrel. So you have to kind of, work out your run out in the machine before you can go ahead and thread the barrel. Just for people to know, because if you see a gunsmith that throws a 3-draw chuck on there and just starts turning the barrel, questionable.
Right.
Take your damn barrel and go home. Somebody
Yeah.
throws in a 3-jaw.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that, these are some of the things for our people to look at that that they may not know what there's actually what they need in order to have the can mounted true.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
You're saying just like a lot of factory barrels that are, they do fine with a muzzle brake, because, the muzzle brake is only 3 inches off the end of the of it, and it's usually, 3 or 4 calibers bigger than the bore. So it's not too big of a thing. But as an old M1A shooter that knows that the flash hiders that they put on those had some real difficulty with bullet strikes, and we ended up reaming out the flash hiders so you wouldn't have a bullet strike on that flash hider. So, and that's the same thing you got with your cans.
Yeah, that's the same thing. You said it perfect. When they thread it, they're threading it for like a little muzzle brake.
Right.
They're not threading it for a 9-inch suppressor that's going to enclose it, that needs to be perfect, perfectly in line with the bore. Same with a lot of these companies that say they have the best hunting rifle, like, hey, we have the best super lightweight hunting rifle and it'll be suppressor ready. And then you measure the OD of the barrel and it's like a 1/2 inch, and there's not enough barrel wall thickness to thread it properly. And then they get upset, like, well, I thought it was suppressor ready. Like, can't you just thread it? I'm like, no, it's not a big enough barrel. You can't do that. Same with a lot of the companies that spew out a bunch of hunting rifles. They do all these weird thread pitches too. Like, 1/2x28 is a standard for rimfire and centerfire. They're both different, but they'll do like 1/2x24, or they'll do 9/16 28, or really, really obscure, weird stuff that they can't get anything aftermarket for unless it's on their website.
Okay. So if you're going to have a barrel turn for a suppressor, talk to the suppressor manufacturer and to find out what the best barrel thread is to have done, and just to confirm everything and make sure that the barrel is big enough is beefy enough to have it threaded correctly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We offer barrel threading services. We make it pretty simple and easy. You just get on our website, fill out an RMA form, and then you send us the rifle or barreled action, and then we'll get it threaded. We'll thread it specifically. So like for those lightweight hunting barrels, we have what is called a 9/16 face mount. So it indexes off the crown instead of the barrel shoulder. We can do that, but it's only made for our brakes. But we can thread it for a variety of other stuff. The other caveat to that, like we recommend if there's 1/2x28 threads, that's for 224 calibers or smaller. If you do anything bigger, like you have to bump up the thread size. You have to go to at least 9/16. So we see that a lot from a big rifle company that makes a bunch of hunting rifles, and they thread their 308 barrels 1/2x28. And we've seen it happen. You're shooting some big 300 Win Mag on 1/2x28 threads, and it can literally rip the break off the threads just because there's not enough barrel wall thickness to, for rigidity.
Rip a suppressor off the threads. Okay.
Yep.
That's. Jim, your mom.
Yep, I'm muted. I was muted. I'm going to call it a night. Good night, all. Sam, it was nice meeting you.
Yeah, good meeting you, Jim.
Yeah. Take care.
We're 2A, guys. Remember, 2A all the way.
Yep. We have a Ken Brown is how would you rate the Tika T3 and their barrel for a suppressor?
So we thread a bunch of Tikas every day. They have the best barrel material. They're super easy to cut. They're super easy for us to thread. So we prefer doing them. I actually tell people that's probably the best. If they're getting a hunting rifle and they're going to thread for our suppressor, the Tika T3s are great. And it's just the quality of the barrels. They're just a breeze for us to thread, and we do so many of them that they end up, perfect. Yeah.
He's asking about their pre-threaded barrels specifically.
I just have to be careful because I can't talk. Tika's great. But even companies like Tika, we've seen factory threaded barrels need to get recut, basically.
Okay.
But like I said, those you can do the alignment rod thing. It's not a guarantee. Otherwise, you could send it to us and we'll check it for cheap. I think I don't have the price sheet in front of me, but to just check run out or check the barrel threads is like $50. So $50 versus blowing up a can that's $1,200.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, $50 is well spent compared to blowing up the can.
Exactly.
Yeah, even with shipping, it's still reasonable, Go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, Paul, you got any more questions for Sam? Because I know he just got back from ball practice with his kiddo, so he probably wants to go spend some time.
Yeah, he probably wants to eat dinner and all that other kind of good stuff.
We can do this again too if you guys want to get me on in a couple weeks or a couple months from now.
Yeah, definitely, Sam. Get you back on. Maybe or if you can kind of maybe talk to the powers be and see if we can kind of get some more teasers of what's coming down the line. Kind of bring you on and see what. Because I know definitely some interest on gas guns, suppressors, because like you were saying, the flow through designs. Obviously, I've shot some of those at SHOT this year, and it's like, okay, cool. And the gas blowback, that's a concern for a lot of people as well. Anybody else got any questions for Sam? So, hey, Sam, before we let you sign off for yourself, how can people find Thunderbeast, Wyco PRL, and your match?
Okay. Thunderbeast is pretty easy. You type in Thunderbeast Arms, Google will pop up our website, and we keep it pretty updated. I'm the social media guy now, so Instagram, it just allows me to do more without getting banned, I guess you could say, or getting shadow banned. I've been able to get tons of views and tons of followers on that stuff that I've been posting. That is TBAC, so TBAC_suppressors. And I've been putting tons of content on there. So there's all kinds of good videos and recent videos of us shooting, testing, doing demos, pictures of some awesome builds that we've been a part of. And then that goes into the Facebook Thunderbeast page. So just thunderbeastarms.com or Thunderbeast Arms Corp on Facebook. Pretty easy to find. It's a business page. And most of the posts from Instagram just post on there. YCO PRL for our league. The website is just ycoprl.com. And it'll give you updates for all the matches. And then we track scores of everyone that's a member. And the way the guys that run it are two best friends of mine, Luke Zapp and Jesse Schwinn. The way that they upload scores is so you can see where you're weak in a lot of areas, or what matches that you can't do really well in other ones. So you can like gather a ton of data to make you an all around better shooter. So that's why being a YCO member is pretty awesome if you're in the areas shooting the matches. A few of the matches are actually PRS affiliated. So my matches are part of the Precision Rifle Series, which is pretty cool. So my match kind of does both a couple times a year. And then my personal match page, which is part of YCO, but it's also my own thing. It's called the Cheyenne Precision Rifle Hoedown. There's a Facebook page to it. I did have to like approve members because I was getting some spam stuff of people trying to make Cheyenne Precision Rifle Hoedown shirts and selling them like without my permission from like another country or something. So I've had to shut that down pretty quick. And then if you're on social media, you'll notice there's like a lot of bogus dealers that sell firearms. And I don't know if it's like a bait trap or whatever it is, or they say they got reloading components when they're really popular. But I have to kind of go in there and I'm on it every day to approve people, but I kind of got to vet you a little bit or just make sure you answer the question. So I can be like, he's here for a good reason.
And when's your next match down in Cheyenne?
So my match is the fourth Saturday of every month. Unfortunately for May, I didn't host mine. So another match in Colorado could get a bunch of shooters. And then this June, I have to go to the Hornady PRC for work, which is on my match weekend. So I won't be able to do mine, but starting in July, so the fourth Saturday of July, throughout the end of the year, I'll have my match in Cheyenne. I run it pretty efficiently and quick. So you get there in the morning, everyone's gone by 1.
What's the rough round count for people in case they're planning on coming down to your match?
That's roughly about 80 rounds. So 7 to 8 stages, about 80 rounds. And I spread squads around so they're smaller so everyone can like kind of relax and like hang out for the day. And you know, I do a lot of competitive shooting, so my wife's not a huge fan of when I'm gone all the time. So that was my whole point of doing this, is because like if I make a match that we get done early, like everyone's going to want to shoot mine because we get done early and we can still have a afternoon to spend with the family. Because you'll encounter some. There's one that you will not finish shooting until like 4:30 p.m. Especially when you're out there from like 8 a.m. You get pretty burnt out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of one-day matches that are like that.
Yeah. And I think that was a nice trend, was when you start seeing a lot of the one-day matches that started, getting a little bit more people involved. Of, I'm not having to take a whole weekend away from the family. I can just go do my thing and then still have time with the family.
Exactly. And it's blown up. Like last year we had, I think this is our third year. First year we only had 50 members. Last year we had 70. And now we have, last time I checked, I thought it was like over 120.
Wow. That's growing
so it's
quick.
just been growing. And I am lucky enough, I get to host the finale for the year. So I reach out to a bunch of companies and get a prize table together, and have one big event to where that's going to determine everyone's standings for the year. That'll be in September, and it's a pretty big, awesome event. Last year we had a ton of people come and spectate, and I think we had 70 competitors. I'm hoping this year to break 100. That's kind of my goal. for the venue that I have room for it. So I'm hoping that I can get there.
We'll try to promote as much as we can for you to try to help get some more people involved.
Yeah, we've put our flyers around to all like Murdoch's and Sportsman's, and we're trying to just let anyone know that's in Wyoming and Colorado that we're here, and we're pretty accepting of anyone that wants to get into long range shooting, and we want to help out.
All right, Mike, I guess I'll turn it over to you now. I think we've all spoken enough.
All right. Well, Sam, once again, thanks for joining us. Greatly appreciate it. It's awesome knowledge that you shared tonight. Just I'm still trying to absorb it. So show will post probably a couple of weeks. We're still trying to get caught back up. So, but Chris will let you know when it posts.
Mm-hmm.
So once again, thank you very much. And yeah, we'll definitely take you up on the offer to have you back. So
yeah,
I'm sure
there'll probably be, gather a bunch of questions up, and then we can, do it again.
And knowing how things go, you'll probably sit there tomorrow and go, oh, I should have said this, and I should have said this, and I should have said this.
Yeah, I forgot to talk about that.
So
yeah, I've done a few podcasts, and I've definitely torched myself on a couple, and of missing opportunities to put information, or like my mind just goes blank. They're asking technical questions that I have, but at the time I'm like, and it makes me look bad. Like, damn, you work for Thunderbeast and you don't even know what this is.
Well, I think what we'll do next go around, Sam, is once we get those questions compiled, I'll send them to you. That way you can kind of, if there's technical data, you can kind of have that preloaded and be like, oh yeah, this, and boom.
Yeah, if it's super technical, if you give those to me, I'll get info from our engineering team too.
Okay.
Okay.
No, don't worry, Sam. You're a PR guy. We understand. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. Well, we'll let you get going with the rest of your night. Once again, thank you for
thanks again, Sam.
some time with us.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Have a good night, Sam. Good evening.
All right, see you guys. I'll talk to you, Chris.
Yep.
All right.
So you got more questions, Sharinda?
Yeah, but I think they're more appropriate off air.
Yeah, Sam is. I got to basically take about 5 minutes because they were slammed because Nick and Ray were running. I ran back to Thunderbeast, and I got to talk to them for a few minutes. But with that many people hitting their booth, you're just a face in the crowd, and like you said, you can't really do anything as far as industry because everybody was there to see that new 50 cal suppressor, and hell, I was too, to be honest with you, because I was like, I want to see how big this damn thing is.
I think I remember you saying that a couple times.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, you were out
on the end of the
showboating
aisle.
and getting everything, all your stuff lined up, so we didn't see it much. So.
Wow.
But hopefully that
Chris,
was.
Plus, they were on the end of an aisle, so they were getting everybody that was walking by.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you go down the end there, I'll get ready to turn. It's like, ooh, what's this? So yeah. Hopefully, I think this was a pretty good show for everybody. I mean, I'm pretty sure our listeners will get, obviously a ton of questions as they come up. I mean, obviously Sam kind of teased a few things that I've always been hoping Thunderbeast would come up with, but it sounds like they're kind of in the works with some of the things I'd like to see from them. Especially with the gas gun side.
Well, there's your first question. Vanessa Kitty, how long does your 50 cal can? How long will the 50 cal can last?
I'll actually ask Sam that. I'll put that up on the list. I'll actually see if I'm pretty sure they had to have done some of the testing on it. I'll make a note of that to start adding.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. So, while you're making that note, we'll talk a little bit about one of our advertisers, Fort Patriots. So, As some people know, aging power grid is vulnerable more now than ever. A lot of the power stations are vulnerable to easy attack. They're continuing to check the grids and the substations and everything, and they know what the weaknesses are. So, but there's certain substations that are more vulnerable than others and more important than others. So imagine a blackout lasting days, not days or weeks, but months. Your life frozen in time right at the moment power fails. Lights all over the country would go out, throwing people into total darkness. That's why having your own solar power is more important than ever. With the new Patriot Power Generator 2000X, you get a solar generator that doesn't install into your house because it's portable. You can take it with you, even use it inside, but it's powerful enough for your phone, medical devices, or even your fridge. Right now, you can go to 4Patriots and use the code FRN to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store, including the Patriot Power Generator. You also get the famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus free shipping on orders over $97, and a portion of every sale is donated to charities that support our veterans and their families. Once again, just go to 4patriots.com. That's the number 4, not spelled out, and use code FRN to get 10% off. So, also check out their survival fluid. It's very good stuff, and it's actually filling, unlike some of the stuff that I've tried. So, once again, that's 4patriots.com, code FRN, 10% off your first order. So, so Nick emailed in, and has anybody heard about brass from Alpha Munitions or used it?
Haven't
Can't
used
say
it,
that
but
I
I've
have.
I've heard good things about it.
Okay. I haven't either, so maybe we'll have
I haven't used it, but I've heard really good reviews on their brass.
I guess we'll have to have them on the show.
Yeah.
So,
I ran some tests over the weekend on some Peterson brass, and it's good stuff.
yes, it is.
So
Yeah. Jeremy Rowland did a test on a bunch of different types of brass. Excuse me. I was trying to not burp loud. And out of all the stuff he tested, Peterson was by far and away the best, the most consistent, most concentric, most consistent case capacity, most consistent sizing inside and out. So
I have to agree. I mean, I ran a lot of tests and measurements on it. And the most consistent and squarest primer pockets that I've ever run into, even including Lapua, brass. Yeah, it's good stuff, and it shot some pretty good groups.
I'm just most of my 338 brass is Peterson. My 300 PRC is Peterson. I haven't swallowed the pill to order the 7 PRC on back order from Graf and Sons from Peterson, because 250 pieces are basically $400. But I've got Atlas Development Group, which I've had really good. They've turned out to be pretty good. I'm trying to see what else I got up on the shelf. Yeah, that's basically it. And of course, I do have some Hornady stuff, but that's more of my flinking gas gun. I don't care what happens to it type stuff.
Yeah, it's
So, anyway, yeah, I've got some Hornady black that I picked up one of our regulars at Cabela's. He even though he doesn't shoot a lot of long guns, he has a tendency to pick up stuff sometimes, and so he had 4 boxes of Hornady Black 6.5 Creedmoor. So I'm going to shoot that up and use the brass. We'll see how it goes. So
Unfortunately, with some of the new, well, just in general, really, I had to pick up factory ammo from. Tried to Hornady as much as I can because like 6R couldn't find brass.
nope.
7 PRC couldn't find brass because it hasn't hit the market. So I had to buy. Nick was able to get me 3 boxes. I found 2 boxes from GA Precision. At least I got 100 pieces of brass that once I shoot the factory rounds, I got at least the factory brass to start out until I can see the good stuff hit the market.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of 308 brass. I'm going to turn into 6.5. So, but the other thing I'm interested in, and if I might do, who had that? I've got it's Hornady brass, but let's see here. Where is it? Mid-South. Mid-South Shooter Supply has a 6.5 Creedmoor loader pack. It's 100 count primed brass and 100 count Hornady 143 grain ELDX bullets. Right now, $119.99.
That's actually not too bad.
No.
That's a pretty decent price.
So basically, for the 100 rounds of primed brass, they're charging essentially $79.99, so 80 cents a round for primed brass.
So you take 8 cents off of that.
It's Hornady. It's Hornady brass.
Yeah, but you take 8 cents off of that per piece for the primer, because that's about what primers run. So you know most of the
Creedmoor brass I'm seeing that's brand new is anywhere from 80 cents to $1 a piece. So, and then the Creedmoor bullets are $49.99. But
I mean, I got a bunch of 6.5 Creedmoor brass in mid-COVID, but that's because I put I think 1,000 pieces on back order with Starline, and then you got military discount with them for 10%, so it wasn't too bad. I'd hate to see what that would cost me now.
The only thing I'd want to try with 6.5 would be the small primer pocket brass.
Yeah, I'd like to do a comparison. Is what I'd like to do someday. But so our other sponsor is Patriot Patch Company. Here is your June patch of the month. That's right.
Yeah.
It's a bottle rocket launcher. So complete with hollow sight and some reloads there in the sling. So the other thing that I got this month with it was a vinyl of 4 Rules Gun Safety. So I'd like to get a stack of these and just walk around slapping them on things, but somebody would get mad at me. So, but you do get the vinyl, and then you also get a copy of Ryan's original mock-up drawing of as being a member of the patch of the month. And once again, I think something crawled up my dog's ass and died. Thanks, Ollie. He's just snoozing away, gassing me out. So,
did anybody else have good news about 8.6 Blackout today?
No.
What, they killed it?
No.
It's now Sammy Spec, huh?
It is now Sammy Spec.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. So interesting.
Well, I got something for Jim that I'm going to have to get to him. Let me. I have it. I get it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it's. Let's Let's see if we can switch screens here. Come on.
Uh-oh. Paul's trying to get his computer to work.
That's the other thing. I got a new computer coming.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just upgraded the RAM and the hard drive in the podcast computer, so
This way Jim can shoot a dime size screw.
That's awesome. Oh, so awesome.
It is a 3-inch diameter dime.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious. That is absolutely hilarious. So. Yeah, so tomorrow night I'm going to go scrounging through all my hunting stuff and see if I have a scope to throw on my 6.5 so I can go out and shoot it on Thursday. We'll see.
Okay.
But yeah, the Cabela's Covenant scopes are kind of garbage.
Yeah.
And that's from somebody that sells them. So.
And Nick, I took your advice on the computer. I bought that mini brick.
You'll love. I loved the one I was seeing my mom's co-worker use, and it was incredible. And it's just going to save the space, and that's why I'm going to do it. My new reloading bench.
Yeah.
So, I got the laptop is getting retired. It's still going to be around, but it's. I lost the USB on it, and so it was time. So I gonna invest in another monitor. Gonna get one of them 32-inch curved monitors to go into the space here.
And ooh, look at you getting all fancy.
Yeah, keep the 27 that I got, and we'll go from there. But
there you go. You put the 27 on top of the 32.
Yeah.
So I know you guys already saw. I posted in our Facebook chat of what I'm going to design my new reloading bench like. So
yeah,
hopefully August that'll be done is the plan. August, nice. September.
So when's closing date?
We don't have a set date yet. It's going to be probably second week of July.
Okay, that's not bad then.
So, but I know Sharonda's already going to be bugging to come over.
Of course, because she's going to try and pinch off your stash.
No, because it'll be locked up in the vault.
There you go.
Oh, I'm not worried about your stash. I want that desk.
So for anybody that doesn't know, I can show everybody here. See how well it's going to pop up. My phone. I ran across this the other day on just
the other day.
So I'm gonna design my new. That's just a desk there, but I'm gonna do a bench that same style.
So for those who can't see, the end of the drawer is the lid for a 50 cal ammo can.
20
and then
millimeter.
It's
actually 20 millimeter.
Oh, 20 millimeter. Yeah. And then on the side of the desk is actually the other part of the ammo can, so you can latch the drawer shut.
Mm-hmm.
It is freaking cool.
So then I'll design my own little blocks for all my turrets to sit down in. So, but
there you go. Don't worry about the top. I'll come over with you an epoxy top on it.
Oh, excuse me.
Bless you, Sharonda. Bless you.
No, I'm probably gonna go like the Home Depot or something and buy some of those butcher block countertops and do those, and because those aren't too terribly expensive.
He gonna do it fancy.
Yep.
Oh, fancy. All right. Well, another shout out to Sam for coming on. Thunderbeast Arms. So, appreciate it. Appreciate all the Patreons who continue to support us. Chris and I are working in our spare time to try and get caught up. Unfortunately, neither of us have much spare time at the current moment. So,
sorry,
but we're working on it. I'm waiting for when I get the boat out because once I get the boat in the water, then I'm going to have a whole bunch of time where nobody's going to freaking bother me, and I'm going to take the laptop out on the boat and edit podcasts. I tried to edit Sunday when I was hanging out with my father-in-law, keeping him safe, but unfortunately, he decided he wanted to be super active. My father-in-law's got dementia, so he's at the point now where somebody needs to be with him all the time. And so I was hoping that he would sit down and watch some Westerns with me, and then I could sit there and edit. I got 49 edited. I got to get it posted. So, and then I posted 47. So, and I think you're working on 48, Chris, you said.
Yes.
Okay. So
I should have 48 done. I'm going to go watch the niece and nephew this weekend while the wife stays down here. So
fun.
I should have some time to edit. Unless the nephew wants to go shooting, then I'll take one for the team and we'll go shoot.
Yep. So, anyway, on that note, gang, keep your brass shiny.
Jump on the Millsap short bus.
Shoot smarter, not harder.
Teach your lady how to reload and let her pinch off your stash just a little bit.
Grandpa told me not to listen to my mama. He goes, violence does solve problems. And just a quick shout out to the two gentlemen and the lady that were at the Atterbury Range on Saturday. Keep listening, and we'll have more on reloading for you.
And remember to support the Second Amendment. However you choose to do that, whether it's calling your Congress critters, your local representatives, your state representatives. You should be a member of your state organizations. Those are the ones doing a lot of the work. The NRA is dead. They do not do a damn thing for Second Amendment anymore, and have not for probably 4 or 5 years now. So regardless of their stupid advertising and their lovely mailers they send out to try and sucker you into giving money, they are not doing a damn thing for the Second Amendment. Please do not send them a penny until
they
Wayne
called me.
LaPierre.
They called me and I told them, sorry, I just did a donation and started my membership with Gun Owners of America and the Firearm Policy Coalition. Sorry, they already got my money.
I tell them I won't give them a dime until Wayne's gone. So, but I honestly at this point think I don't know if it's savable. Used to think it is. I don't think it is anymore. I think the NRA is dead and gone. So everybody just needs to give up on it and move on. Unfortunately, they still have the media's ear, so they're still getting, they're still, running the narrative. So we need to work on that. So on the legislative side, FPC, GOA are doing some good stuff. As usual and always, Second Amendment Foundation is kind of been the super group. So if you're not supporting them, you should be. That's the group that brought us Heller and McDonald. And they do a lot of awesome cases. They've got quite a few with the recent pop-ups and stuff. And so just be careful where you're spending your money. Don't just take me at my word. Do your research, do your investigations, and make sure. And hold them accountable if they're not. If they're not doing what you think they should be doing, then tell them they're not doing what you think they should be doing. And if they're not taking comments and they're not listening, then they're probably not an organization you want to support. So, or maybe you need to you need to analyze your views. So, unfortunately, I run into a lot of people that say, I support the Second Amendment, but no, there is no but. Sorry. There's no but, there's no giving, there's no compromising anymore. That time has passed. So, especially now that we have a Supreme Court case that backs us on that and says, no, all this gun control laws are bullcrap. And Paul, you're muted.
Excuse me.
Nope, no, you're not.
We have 3 Supreme Court cases that sit down and say that these are our rights.
Yep.
that without a problem. Heller,
McDonald and Bruin.
And all Bruin did was reaffirm the right that they stated in Heller.
Yep.
So it's they just said, hey, listen, guys, this is it. You can't, you can't make up rules, to suit your ideals.
No. So.
Anyhow.
Exactly. All right, gang. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. You want to get a hold of us, 608-467-0308. You can send us a voicemail. You can send us a text. You can hit us up on social media, MeWe, Facebook, Discord. If you want the Discord link, send me an email, reloadingpodcast@gmail.com, or private message me on Facebook or MeWe. So we're also on Instagram, but unfortunately, I don't spend much time on Instagram doing anything with the podcast because I haven't spent a lot of time doing reloading. As I get back into it, I will be. Also, I will have in probably the next couple of weeks, I will have a Mech 9000 reloader up for sale. So I'll post that in Discord. All right, gang. On that note, good night. Oh, oops, I almost forgot the most important thing. Almost forgot, guys. If you're struggling, make sure you reach out and get some help. 1-800-273-8255 or 988 on your cellular device. Seriously, sign of strength, reach out and get the help. There's help out there. We need you here. We want you here. It is a struggle. But with help, you can overcome it. Hang in there. Okay. Good night.
And Oder?
Oh, yeah.
Next week, we'll see if we can get some better sound out of my setup. So.
Yep. So. Good night, all.
Night.
Good night.